and welcome back to Kapow for an episode that smashes through your front fence and devours your entire family. I'm Sonya.
And I'm Al, and hopefully you've guessed from Sonya's frankly quite disturbing introduction that we're here in King's Comics today to talk about the international phenomenon that is Attack on Titan.
Yes, plus it's the title of this video.
May have also been a clue.
Yes. Now, back in 2013, Ray and I took a look at the first episode of Attack on Titan, the anime, and since then, both the anime and the manga series have exploded in popularity.
So much so that a live-action feature film has just been released. So Ray, Jill, and I went along to see whether it does the series justice.
And just so that I didn't feel left out, we took a look at 2 spin-offs from the Attack on Titan manga, as well as checking out an awesome Titan collectible with Ray.
So grab your swords, strap on your 3-dimensional maneuver gear, and let's get started.
Okay guys, a little primer for anyone who isn't familiar with Attack on Titan. It's created by Hajime Isayama and it focuses on the last remnants of humanity. These poor guys have to live in cities surrounded by massive walls to keep out the man-eating giants called Titans.
Yeah, now the bulk of the story features young men and women rocketing through the air on hip-mounted grappling hooks that let them get high enough to slice their swords through the back of the Titans' necks. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds freaking awesome, and you're right.
True. Now, the 2 manga that we're looking at today are prequel spin-offs to the ongoing Attack on Titan series. Firstly, we have No Regrets, written by Gun Snark with art by Hikaru Suraga. The story focuses on the origins of 2 popular characters, Levi and Erwin, and on the events that lead Levi from a criminal existence in the underground slums beneath the city to becoming a captain in the Survey Corps Special Operations Squad. Okay, Al, so what did you think of this first one?
Well, look, I enjoyed this one. I'm giving it a borrow.
Okay.
I think there were certainly some good elements. I think it was a good idea to focus on these 2 characters. You know, Levi and Erwin, they're very popular characters in the series.
Sure.
So I think people are really going to enjoy seeing the background of these guys, seeing where they come from.
Yep.
Was a great choice. You know, we've seen plenty of the other main guys. So these guys, yeah, they've got some skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
We want to see where they're from. So I think that's going to really draw people in.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a really good call. There were some negatives. For one thing, it's a positive that's also a negative. I loved the whole thing about the underground in the city.
Yeah, it's very cool.
The whole concept that humanity decides, okay, we're going to try living underground to get away from the Titans.
Makes perfect sense.
And it didn't really work so well. I don't know, maybe they all got rickets or whatever. I don't know. But it didn't work too well. So they ended up just going, no, we'll just
build walls.
Big walls. Big walls are the way to go. But I would have liked to see more of the underground.
Yeah.
It starts off there. We got a bit of underground stuff.
Yep.
They're, you know, flying around some stalactites, and then, you know, they're up getting trained and on they go.
Yeah.
I really kind of like the idea of this. You know, it's been relegated to slums and corruption and crime, and
it is the underground.
The underground, exactly. And I would have loved to see more of that. I thought you could have had an entire first issue based on that.
Yeah, right.
Would have actually worked. Go even further
back
to when he's a child and really give us that backstory.
Yep.
So I would have liked that. The other thing that really detracted from it a little bit for me, sometimes in the action scenes, it was a little hard to follow.
Sure.
Things became a bit chaotic. It was just a lot of lines to me at some points that I wasn't 100% on what was actually happening. So he's going that way? Is it that kind of
and that kind of maneuverability gets a little bit static and you don't quite understand the mechanics of this, the way of fighting.
You really needed more to sort of hold your hand in terms of the progress of things. We need to see, okay, this hook's fired, hook hits something, and then we see them fly. There wasn't enough of that to really guide me through. So, nevertheless, I did really enjoy a lot of what was in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, a borrow for me.
Nice.
Now, what did you think?
Well, now I'm going to admit something which could be a little bit... I actually haven't been watching Shingeki. I haven't been following Attack on Titan, I'm afraid. I really loved the first episode when I watched it, but various things, and I haven't. So, I'm coming in on this as a person who is aware of the world, but has no idea what's going on.
Right, so you haven't gotten to Levi or anything like that showing up.
So for me, it makes this a berry. The biggest problem for me is that, it's great if you have been watching this series, you know who these characters are. I haven't. I have no idea, and there is no time wasted on character exposition. There's no character development here. I don't know why Levi is the sarky, dark little man that he is. He just is. And the other thing that kind of frustrated me was there just wasn't enough in it to kind of make me care about any of these characters. None of them were developed enough that made me really care or be worried if they were, are they going to get captured? Are they going to die? I don't care.
There was a fair bit of reliance on having known these characters previously in order to invest in them.
And I think if you had, absolutely, I reckon you'd really enjoy this. But I'm purely looking at this as somebody who is aware but not up to date, which I think a lot of people kind of I hope I'm not the only one.
I think, to be fair, I think you do make a good point, even for somebody who does know these characters, that they didn't really pay that much attention to developing them as characters. They just kind of went, you know who they are. This is just them in different situations.
It's
fine. So there wasn't really that
there wasn't a lot
development happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I know what you mean.
The other thing was, you've got these 3 characters and they're in the underground, and I agree. I would have liked to have seen more of that. I think that would have given me a bit more information about these people, where they're from, why they do the things that they do, how they met. Would have been amazing.
Would have been a good story.
Exactly. So, and then they get into the core, and they've just decided they're going to kill this other guy. Why? I have no idea.
Yeah.
It just seems Levi has a chip on his shoulder, and Ferland, I don't know, he's just got his own thing happening.
Well, they have been talking, there was some talking about, they need to get their hands on papers and stuff like that.
But I don't know why.
Yeah, he seemed very determined to kill Erwin, and that isn't really explained, at least in this first issue. I don't know whether they're going to get to that later.
It might, well, see, that's the thing, and this is my biggest problem. It might get to that in the next issue. I'm not going to be still reading.
Yeah.
Because by the time I got to the end of the first issue, like I said, I didn't care about the characters. I wasn't that interested in what was going on. The action was fragmented for me, and I found it very difficult to kind of keep up with what was happening in each panel, and the pace of it, weirdly enough, it starts with a bit of a fight and it ends with a bit of a fight, and it's just so slow through the rest of the story.
It is mostly just sitting around talking.
Yeah, in fragmented sentences that make no sense.
Yeah, it didn't really... I don't know whether that was a bad translation or something like that, but it didn't flow very well.
It could have been.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, all of these things kind of built up to me finishing it, putting it down and going, which, translates into a berry for me, I'm afraid.
No, that's fair enough. You've justified your opinion. That's fair
Sorry.
enough. Now let's move on to our next one. The next prequel, Before the Fall, is written by Ryo Suzukaze, with art by Satoshi Shiki. It steps away from the established characters to introduce someone new, with a backstory that is messed up even by the standards of Attack on Titan. Kuklo is a boy whose mother was eaten by a Titan while he was still in the womb, leaving him to be cut from her after her body was regurgitated. To make matters much worse, the boy is then imprisoned for the first 15 years of his life, hated, feared, and branded as the son of a Titan. So, Sonya, what did you think of this one?
Well, I actually really enjoyed this one.
Excellent.
I'm going to give this one a buy. This didn't have the problems of the other one because there's no characters in this that are in the anime.
It's true, all fresh faces.
All fresh faces, no assumed knowledge. All you need to know is that there are Titans.
Yeah.
That's it, and you should know that, really. It's in the title, so you should know that.
Mm.
I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a really interesting story that, it starts quite in your face. Like, it starts really aggressively and quite grotesquely because, Titans.
There's a massive Titan attack right at the start.
Right at the start. So it starts quite frenetic and things are happening, and then you get this a dip in the middle of the story where you get to get really into these characters and find out about Charles and Savi and Kuklo, who are all really interesting characters.
It's true, yeah. Who all have motivations that are explained to you.
Exactly.
And are sort of slowly developed.
Story is developed. Yeah. It's always cool. I think the idea of this poor kid that was born within the body of his mother who was eaten by a Titan and then regurgitated. Because
they don't even digest them.
That's just scary horror to begin with, which my feelings about scary horror. But B, I think, as a character, that's a really interesting place to come from.
Yeah.
You also get a really good idea about the society in the city. You get the corruption of the government, you get the hierarchy happening, you get a really good introduction to the world within the walls, which I find for somebody, like I said, who isn't up to date, that was really, really great for me. I understood what was going on. I could understand how these cities kind of sift through people. And then you get right down to where Kuklo is, right down at the lowest of the low, and this poor creature who is treated like a creature, like a pet.
He can barely speak. He's never been taught anything.
Anything. And he just has to endure. That's basically his whole thing, is to endure. And the ending of this made me want to read the next one. You know, I got to the end, you've got Kuklo, you've got Charles, and it's like, right, I need to know what happens next. And that's fantastic. The action in this, although is frenetic, I could follow it easily. I think the character faces were really interesting. There was a lot of expression that was put through. There was a lot of, I think there's a lot of time spent on the characters, which I am a character-based person. I like reading about people and motivations and why they do the things that they do. And that was all in there for me, even though it's still very concise. So I just really enjoyed this one. This is definitely one for anyone who is enjoying the series but wants something a little bit different. I wouldn't recommend this as a jumping off point for anyone who isn't aware of Attack on Titan. I don't think this is a good place to start. Just start with the original series. But for anyone who has been watching or who has been reading, I reckon this is a great little spin-off. It's really cool. What did you think, Al?
Well, I really enjoyed this one too. This is a buy from me as well.
Awesome.
I really liked, as much as I thought, great idea picking these two popular characters and developing them, it's also a great idea to give us something completely fresh.
Yes.
You know, I take a character from the very depths of where a person can be. Because this guy, he's got nothing. He's got literally nothing.
It's really heartbreaking.
He's been in chains his entire life. Up to the age of 13 before anybody even talks to him like a human being. Because they don't think he is a human being. They think he's potentially a Titan. And I think that was really interesting, that you really get a concept of the siege mentality of these people. The fear, the paranoia, the superstition that grows rife in that sort of enclosed area like you've got with these cities.
And it was quite cool because this is all set right in the center.
So
you've got a lot of walls before you actually even get to where the Titans are.
So this is where the wealthiest people in everything live.
So they're aware that there is Titans out there, and they...
But it's almost a distant threat.
It's a distant threat, and it's one that is almost lauded. It's like, yes, you're going to go and fight Titans because you have no idea what they are.
And I think from the very start, it comes in with some interesting ideas that really develop this world. I mean, from the very first page, you've got this group of people who want to be let out of the front gate to be eaten by the Titans.
They're Titan worshippers.
They worship the Titans as they're like, this is the natural thing. We should be eaten by them, and then we shall move on to something else. And I think that from the very start,
that's really interesting.
People who don't treat it with terror and fear and abject horror, that immediately gives you an interesting new aspect of what's happened to these people, what would happen to the mentalities of a community in that sort of surround.
That situation,
So that was really fascinating. As you said, it's really good to see the slow develop of a character. It focuses right in on Kuklo. And you have to see what happens to somebody in that sort of situation, and is this person going to turn into a monster?
He might. We don't know.
For all we know, they might be right. He could turn into a Titan. We don't know.
He could be a new form of Titan.
He's been inside one of their bodies and survived. I mean, what does that do to you? Well, I mean,
we don't know.
This is something that, again, makes you want to continue with this story and with this series. So I think it's very effective as a spin-off. I think and again, it's a prequel, so it's well before the fall, before everything's really hit the fan. So that, again, gives you another interesting aspect of the world. So look, this one, for any fans of Attack on Titan who would like to see a bit more of the world, a bit more of the past of this place, and some fresh characters, I think this is definitely a winner, so it's definitely worth a read.
Awesome. So that's just our opinions on these two prequels. If you guys have read them, we'd love to know what you thought of them, or if there's other spin-off stories that you think we should check out, let us know in the comments. Hey Ray.
Hey Sonia. Hey everyone.
So there are heaps of Attack on Titan goodies on the shelves, and you've brought one in for us to have a look at today.
I have, yes. This is the Mikasa Ackerman 7th Scar figure by Pulchra. It depicts our heroine launching herself through the grasp of a Titan, presumably to deliver the fatal blow.
I love the movement in this piece. It's like she's reached the top of her climb and she's going in for the kill.
Yeah, you get a sense of that 3D maneuver gear at work, and the twist of her torso suggests that she's going in for the next move, which it looks excellent. There's a lot of detail in the piece. The flow of her scarf and the creases in her pants, the shirt and jacket combine to give a quality of realism. But it's the intricate detail of the 3D maneuver gear that sells it.
Yeah, the details are really lovely in this, but what about the head sculpt?
Well, personally, I think it looks great. A, it looks like her, and B, it depicts the character's qualities in her expression.
Yeah, that combination of affliction and apathy.
Now, I wasn't sold on the base though, straight away. I thought it was a bold choice, and I like how it captures the scale, but why not the whole hand? You know, what else could it have been?
Yeah, well, I kind of like that the white base sort of disappears and you become really focused in on the action.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, those gnarled fingers, that just adds a touch of creepiness to it.
They do,
Yeah,
yeah.
They do. I'm gonna give it a buy.
Okay, cool. Look, I'm going to give it a buy as well, but it's not without a hint of reservation. You see, I'm not entirely sold on the visible peg to hold Mikasa in place. Perhaps it could have been straight and in line with the rest of the figure, so it was only visible at a certain angle.
Or you could paint it white.
Oh. Yeah. Well, yeah, you could just do that.
Yeah, see? Up here for thinking.
Where?
Here. Here. Oh. Ray's turned into a titan.
It's time now to see Attack on Titan Part 1. Jill, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Give us a few words about what you're expecting for this film.
Well, I'm really excited. The trailer looked amazing and I can't wait to see some Titan killing. Let's go.
All right. Awesome. Al?
Oh, look, I'm very excited as well. 3D maneuvering gear. I want to see that in live action. I want to see some people flying through the air and hacking off some heads.
Awesome. I'm hoping just to see Titans. Yeah.
You will probably not be
In
disappointed.
the title.
There may even be some attacks on those Titans.
Excellent. Just excellent. All right, let's go. Okay, we've just come out of Attack on Titan Part 1. Jill, what did you think?
Ridiculously hilarious. I don't know what else to say. It was so bizarre.
Oh, was it a comedy or?
I don't think it was supposed to be, no.
Oh.
No.
So, what was so funny about it?
Oh my goodness. Besides the terrible acting, the storyline was so far from the original, it wasn't funny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Al?
Yeah, I do have to agree with Jill. There were a lot of unintentionally hilarious moments. It is a bit of a stinker. I have to be honest. There were elements that I liked. Some of the action was working. You know, the Titans looked the part, but you had to slog through so much just awful stuff to get there. The music was frankly a travesty.
Yeah.
The acting was subpar, amateurish nightmare for a lot of these characters. It was quite a disappointment, I gotta say.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the music, and we were discussing earlier how much of an awesome component that is to the anime, and yet, you know, here in the film, it just doesn't support it at all. Look, I didn't enjoy the film at all either. It was just a really poorly made film overall. Continuity, acting, yeah, the direction, it's all over the place, and yeah, but you know, I did enjoy the design element. I actually thought the world itself, certainly earlier on in the kind of agricultural sort of the outer areas and that, I thought there's a lot of work that gone into that. And
they painted the picture of the world they were living in, certainly.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a little bit of instead of a little bit of puppetry, like the sort of taken into account. Don't want to give too much away, but yeah, and I thought some of that worked. I didn't think the special effects were, you know, too out of place. And the Titans, I thought, you know, were really good. They were really varied in the way that they moved as well as how they looked. So that was kind of interesting. But overall, yeah, I just could not enjoy it. And yeah, as you said, I found too much of it funny to really invest in any of it at all. So yeah, but. There's also a lot of changes compared to the anime and to the film. Do you think that people will warm to that or not?
I think if they're a fan of either the anime or the manga, they're going to be disappointed. There wasn't enough in the continuity that it made sense for people that don't know the source material, so I think it could be a little bit confusing. Yeah, and also character-wise as well. You know, some of the characters didn't seem to, you know, behave true to the sort of through lines or storylines that we have sort of come to know. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think Eren's motivation for fighting the Titans was completely lost. they changed his whole backstory, so there was actually no turning point for his character, and it was just a bit lost, I found.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, why are they fighting the Titans? Who cares?
Yeah, that's right. Al?
Yeah, no, I have to agree with that. Aaron, as the central character, when you take away his motivation from the original content, and they did give him another motivation, but then during the film that gets taken away again, and then he's left with sort of, I just really don't like Titans.
Yeah.
Seems to be his entire, and without that rage that character's supposed to have at the center of his being, it really made it really hard to care what he was doing.
Yeah.
He just lacked any sense of character as a result.
Yeah.
A lot of that actor's choices were interesting, to say the least. Just randomly screaming and clutching the back of his neck for no reason. I mean, maybe there may be some cultural differences that I need to take into account, but I don't think that really covers just some of the oddness that was in the performances of that film.
Look, it's strange also to consider, there's so many different elements. They tried to sort of tap into the class system that exists in the anime and that sort of thing, and I don't
think they really fulfilled that.
They didn't fulfill it at all, you know, so leave it out. Do you think that perhaps the worlds developed in the manga and the anime is perhaps too big for even a two-part film? Because this is part one of two, so...
Yeah, I think essentially they could have broken it down into a much simpler plot and take away the elements that make it really defined and ongoing in the manga and stuff, and condense it into a movie, like taking out the class system. And well, they managed to explain the backstory so quickly in the beginning, and then they sort of got too involved with it during the rest of the film. So I think they were tripping over trying to maintain a story that they didn't set up.
Yeah, and in the anime, we just jump straight into it. There's half an episode before you are straight into the action, and this they're kind of still sort of half explaining what happened. And I don't know why they didn't just assume that the audiences would jump straight on board. What they loved about the anime. It feels like they're doing a disservice to all those who loved the series.
Yeah, there were some bad choices in how it was structured, I think, and that really hamstrung it right from the start. I mean, yeah, okay, you're going to need to do a quick, there were Titans, and then we built a wall, and then 100 years we haven't seen them, and now you're caught up.
Yeah.
And all well and good. But then they have this really quite dreary intro, which doesn't really tell us anything. You could have actually used that to tell the story so much better.
Yeah.
Then they do a 2-year jump forward,
Yeah.
and then they have somebody coming up and giving a speech to the troops, telling them stuff they would already know.
Yeah.
You know, as you all know, we're low on all of these things, and this is the situation, just so that everybody watching in the cinema will know.
Yep.
And that really that rang so false.
Yeah.
And it lost an opportunity of seeing them go through training and actually learning who these characters are through that process.
Yeah.
Learning to care about them through that process.
Yeah.
No, we just jumped 2 years forward. Here's the characters. Oh, and now they're off to do some stuff.
Yep.
And it didn't work. And then we're just dumped into tedious discussion scenes that don't build the characters at all and leave you just sitting there chuckling quietly going, what the hell is going on? And that's not what you want, I don't think.
No, that's certainly not what I wanted. But so part two. Part two is on its way. Will you be seeing it, Jill?
I think if I had a group of friends that wanted to endure that movie again, I'd probably go and see it just for the laughs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do you think fans will want to see, follow up to see the rest of the film?
I mean, I probably would call myself a fan of the original, and I am not looking forward to a second movie.
Okay. No. Yep. Al?
I think I would avoid the second one, unless, if you want us to review the second one, if you really want to put me through that, then I will do it if you want me to, but I wouldn't do it out of choice.
Okay, yeah, look, if I'm allowed to go to one of those screenings where I can yell and scream at the TV, perhaps, even throw things, then I'd be all for it. So anyway, that's what we thought, so let us know what you think.
And that brings us to the end of our Attack on Titan special.
And as always, guys, remember to leave us your thoughts, your feelings, and any far-fetched conspiracy theories about lizard people you may have in the comments below.
Yes, and don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all of our new vids.
We'll see you next time, guys.
Bye.
Bye.